Hey everyone, Rick Gualtieri, and I'm back again with another, bad chapter reading. Um, Told you guys I would continue with this, and I definitely want to keep my part of the bargain. And today is actually a pretty good day to do one. Yesterday afternoon, I just finished up the fourth draft of Wannabe Wizard, False Icons Book 2, and I sent it over to Ari Carr. She's going to do one more. This should be a quick polishing run, if you will, and then we're sending it out to editing, and then we should be able to put it in your hands. So good news there. And I figured before I hop into whatever I'm going to work on next, I think I'm going to dive back into Carnage à Trois, Bill of the Dead 3. Although waiting to see which direction the muse takes me. But before I do that, I figured I'd jump into Holier Than Thou, which is the Tome of Bill, Book 4. This is an interesting one in that it's different tone than Morning Woods, which is the last one I did. Morning Woods is 100% pure comedy. There's plenty of comedy in Holier Than Thou, don't get me wrong, but it definitely takes the story in a slightly more serious tone because... no spoilers, but there's a major fuck up at the end of Morning Woods, which actually I'll be getting into since that's the chapter I'm kind of reading here, which just kind of fucks everything, and Bill has to kind of course, deal with it. In a way, this was kind of fun because it did allow me to get a little bit darker than I normally got, which is kind of fun for me as a writer. Also fun in that this book is kind of cool in that I was able to, one of the characters in it, his name is Remington, and he's actually a holdover from an early story I had tried to write, never finished. He was actually the hero in that story. It was kind of a three-way death triangle between him, a vampire hunter, and this crazed immortal. I really liked his character, and when I was writing Holier Than Thou, I was like, wait, I could maybe this is a chance for me to bring him in, at least give him a little bit of spotlight. So that was kind of cool. I know he's not everybody's favorite character because, well, he kind of does horrible things, but he's a company man, if you will. He's not a bad guy. He's basically just given bad information and his marching orders. But that's neither here nor there because, well, obviously because he's not in this snippet. This snippet is actually really early in the book. And, let's hop into it. Burning down the house. You what? Back when we arrived home from the frozen wasteland that is Canada, fresh from hearing the declaration of an impending global Armageddon, we decided it would be best to not share this wonderful news with the rest of the coven. Some of the more violent members of our merry little group weren't particularly happy with me as of late. Curbing their murder sprees, well, let's be honest, didn't exactly make me number one on their friends list. That Sally had apparently announced to the group that their illustrious leader had managed to incompetently fuck them all over by starting a war wasn't exactly music to my ears. I found myself starting to wonder if this little soiree of hers was meant to be a going-away party for me, the permanent kind. I was starting to get questions, mostly about where you were, what was going on, etc. I figured a little good news would keep them distracted. You have an interesting definition of good news. I clenched my fists in frustration. Hey, guess what? We're all going to be overrun by giant fucking monkeys. Let's party! You really are a negative Nancy. You know that? Enlighten me as to the bright side, oh wise one, I spat back. It's not the information itself that's important. It's all about perception. Hell, turn on Fox News at 6 p.m. and tell me that's not true. I couldn't really argue with that one. I gave the Coven an edited edition of the events up north, she explained, starting with your brilliant battle against the Sasquatch leader in which your free will powers proved the deciding factor. Turd? I left out his name. Figured that would blunt some of the impact. She stopped to adjust one of her high heels, continuing her tale once she was finished. Following their pathetic defeat, they begged for peace, not wishing to risk your wrath. Spreading on the bullshit a little thick, aren't you? Yep, and they ate it like filet mignon. Now stop interrupting me. Finally, the vampire nation agreed to a new treaty, but you would have none of it. You stood up and inspired us all with a speech, reminding us of the glory of old, how we were once conquerors, a people to be feared. With you at the helm and the might of the Draculas behind you, we could reclaim our former station in life. Thus said, you stood, drew your dagger, and slew their leader, proclaiming that from this day forth we would no longer be content with hiding in the shadows. Uh-huh. For starters, that was Nergay, and it was Turd's daughter he killed. So what? It's not like either of them are going to contradict you. She had a point there. Nergay, Gan's chief assassin, had murdered the Bigfoot leader's daughter to satisfy his mistress's insane desire to keep me for herself. His mission accomplished, he had done nothing to stop the other Sasquatches from tearing him limb from limb for his crimes. The only ones who knew the truth were, well, the shitload of beings who'd attended the peace conference. Still, I had to remind myself that I ran one little coven in the grand scheme of things. Considering most of the vamps under my leadership were vacuous douchebags, it wasn't surprising the rest of the supernatural world didn't exactly keep them in the loop. And they actually believed all of that? I asked. Yep. And even if some of them didn't, they're not going to call you out on it. And now, in addition to all the other crap they believe about me, they think I'm going to lead them to some glorious vampire-ruled future? Yep. Congratulations, Bill. As far as Village Coven is concerned, you are officially the undead messiah. Why didn't that exactly inspire me with confidence? As we began our walk to the loft, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. It made me wish I'd spent more time working out. On top of all of that, though, there was one more tiny little detail to add to my growing list of personal baggage. Couldn't have told me in advance about the party, could you? I glanced down at my jacket and camo sweatpants that contrasted with Sally's high heels, tight-dressed, and well-coiffed hair. Would you have come? No. Now you know why I didn't tell you, she said with a smirk. You could have at least picked me up a change of clothes then. She rolled her eyes. Sorry, Bill, but I don't answer to the call of attention Kmart shoppers. Besides, this fits your story better. You look like you just came in from a training exercise in the field. She gave me the once-over inside. Well, sorta, anyway. You didn't tell them about the icon, did you? Fuck no. My tongue is golden, but I wasn't about to touch that one. We can't keep it a secret forever, you know? I know, but I sure as shit want to try. It'll be bad enough once they know she exists, but it would be best if nobody found out it was all because of your misguided case of puppy love. I glowered at her. She had no idea how deep my feelings ran. Boston doesn't really know what happened either. Really? Yep, I didn't even tell James. He's back? Returned to the States about a week ago. Gave me a call to see how things were going. James was a 600-year-old vampire and former contemporary of Marco Polo. He was also a freshly minted member of the Draculas. Leaving out something this important wasn't usually an option with them, at least for those of us who cared to keep breathing. I was happy that they didn't know about the icon yet, but it would be far less awesome once they discovered everything later, especially my connection to her. You didn't tell them anything? I didn't talk to them, just James. No fucking way was I letting Colin know shit about anything. Colin being James' assistant and a Weasley little suck of a vampire. The second he learned something, you could be sure anyone who outranked him knew about it too. And you didn't mention... Relax, Bill. All I gave him was a mundane status report and a quick note that you were taking some time off. I stopped and turned to face her. Really? Yes, really. If I told them even the slightest thing, the entire city would be crawling with vampire hitmen by now. I said just enough to make us look like good undead citizens. Hopefully this will give us a little more time to figure things out on our own. I had been so busy feeling sorry for myself and, well, trying to keep Christy from finding out, that I hadn't bothered to consider the Vampire Nation might take a nuke-it-from-orbit approach. In all likelihood, Sally had saved Sheila's life. Thanks, I stammered. Oh, don't get all drippy on me, she said dismissively. I'm doing it more for me anyway. I don't want to have to listen to you whine about it for the next century or two. That's very human of you, Sally. Don't push your luck, she said with a sniff and started walking again. Let's go. We're late enough as it is. Think James would have kept it to himself? Doubt it. That's why I only gave him a status report. Even if he had wanted to keep a lid on things, he'd probably still need to inform the other Draculas, especially Alex. My fangs extended and my lips pulled back in a grimace. Once he finds out the truth, I bet he'll be creaming his pants knowing that one of his precious prophecies has come true. No doubt, but the rest of the Draculas probably won't be nearly as pleased. It could cause a panic. Once word gets out, vamps halfway across the world will see the icon hiding under their bed. With the war looming, we really don't need that crap right now. Her hiding under my bed. Now there was a thought. Unfortunately, any relationship with her was going to be facing some difficulties in the days ahead. Talk about an understatement. She was capable of frying me extra crispy with just a touch. That made even a handshake, much less anything more intimate, a tad difficult. Hell, that might not even be half of it. If she was like me, perhaps she also had a few hidden tricks in her arsenal of powers. I got sidetracked before I could ride that train of thought very far, though. As the building that housed the loft came into view, I realized something wasn't quite right. The first floor was dark. They closed the bar? I heard they're renovating the place. Probably going to take a couple months, too. Pity. Guess it'll be nothing but takeout for a while. The loft occupied the third floor. With the exception of the bar, the entire structure was Coven territory. The noise from the small club at street level drowned out any of the atrocities that occurred in other sections of the building. Though the hunters in the Coven were usually careful to keep most of their activities spread throughout the city, the bar also proved handy in times of need, or so I was told. I stuck strictly to the bottled stuff, although Tom and Ed were often, rightfully so, quick to question where our bottled blood came from. I tried to convince myself we got it from hospitals and other willing donors, but I'm not a complete idiot. Let's just say that there are some instances where a policy of don't ask, don't tell is necessary to maintain one's sanity. Remembering the night I was turned, and the others in attendance that weren't as lucky as me, I wasn't overly dismayed to see the bar closed. It might mean whatever party Sally had planned would be relatively trauma-free, both for myself and any hors d'oeuvres unlucky enough to be present. All things considered, I found myself hoping they'd take their sweet-ass time renovating the place. "Come on, Bill, stop daydreaming," Sally said, prodding me on. "I don't know about you, but I could use a few stiff drinks to drown out the dorkitude of the day." I stopped dilly-dallying and followed her. Maybe she was right. I probably did need to relax a little. Besides which, it's not like it would all be torture. There would definitely be some eye candy on display, and I certainly wasn't above playing Willy Wonka for an evening. Adding hard liquor to the mix wasn't bad for that equation either. Hell, a few months back I had walked in on Firebird and Vanessa, two of the looser members of the Coven, topless and making out. They had been shit-faced drunk and didn't care who had watched. Ooh, talk about a fang bang. I definitely wouldn't say no if given a chance to see that show again. The last time it fueled my personal fantasies for quite a few weeks. For the first time that evening, I allowed myself a genuine smile. Maybe Sally was right. The world could wait for one more night, especially if the night held the promise of seeing some tits. Sadly, fate took a perverse pleasure in waiting for me to drop my guard right before blowing up in my face, and this night was no different. Quite literally, in fact. Sally and I had just reached the front door when our world exploded in green flame. And there you have it, a short snippet from the very beginning of Holier Than Thou, and from there it just kind of gets crazier. I'm a big fan of kind of throwing big mind blowing plot twists at the beginning. I'm not sure if that's super mind blowing, but I kind of like throwing things up front where you're like, wait, shouldn't that be more something that happens at the end? And it's like, well, where are you going to go from here? Because I don't know, that's kind of fun to subvert things. But anyway, enough about my blathering. As with the others, Holier Than Thou is available for Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. It is also available for an audiobook voiced much better than myself by the awesome Chris Featheroff. So if you have a credit to spare and you haven't checked that out already, I would definitely do so. This was a fun book to write, even though it does get a little serious at times. Actually, all the Tome of Bill books were fun to write. Let's not kid ourselves here, But I do kind of like the direction it takes the story. There's a lot of twists and turns in this one. Anyway, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and this has been Holier Than Thou, the Tome of Bill Book 4. And, we'll be back at some point, and we will continue the series. Until then, talk to you soon.